This is the time of the year when our garden is always at its fullest. By July, the lush growth of the heat-loving crops is really starting to speed up, while the plants that prefer the cooler weather are beginning to go to seed. This year though, the intense heat wave has brought its own challenges. After being on holidays for a little while, coming back into the garden almost feels like walking into a different space. Some plants have taken off, others have really struggled, and our heavy clay soil is already showing just how dry these conditions have become. There are still plenty of little jobs waiting for me today. Harvesting, pruning, tidying, checking on the greenhouse, and trying to save apples from the blackbirds. But that's July, isn't it? The garden changes so quickly that even being away for a couple of weeks feels like you missed a whole chapter. Still, I'm so delighted to see that the pumpkins are carrying on growing and the onions haven't bolted yet. And to be honest, I can accept defeat with some of the other plants. So let's have a proper look around and see what the summer has been up to. Now in here the garden birds, but especially the blackbirds, have really struggled to find food during this hot weather. So I can see that they've turned their attention to the apples instead. And these apples are still at least another month away from being ready. But even that hasn't stopped them from pecking little holes and in some cases even eating like a half an apple. And once the blackbirds have started, the smaller birds soon follow along and help themselves too. I will remove all of these damaged apples, and while I'm here I might as well do a little summer pruning, shortening some of the vigorous new shoots and keeping the tree to a manageable size, as I do want to keep these trees here in the kitchen garden quite small. Summer pruning is a little different to winter pruning, and rather than encouraging lots of new growth, doing summer prune helps keep fruit trees more compact and lets more air and light reach the fruit that's developing. So it's a good time to actually do it. To protect what's left, I'm using the carrot bed netting over the tree. Now, an ordinary bird netting wouldn't really help in this situation because the birds can still reach through the wider holes in a bird netting and peck the apples. This mesh is much finer, so hopefully it will give the fruit a fighting chance to ripen properly. I know it doesn't blend into the garden particularly well, and because it's still open underneath, a determined bird might sneak in, but at this stage I simply want to preserve as many healthy apples as I can. With the fruit trees taken care of for now, let's have a look inside the greenhouse. The heat over the last couple of weeks has really changed things in here as well. The greenhouse has carried on filling up during this heat. Most things are much the same, apart from one rather unexpected surprise. This giant deep burgundy coloured hollyhock has appeared right in the corner. Well, it has been growing there, and I was assuming it is a hollyhock because of the leaves it has, but I had no idea what the colour could be. And honestly, I don't know where it came from because the seeds I had sowed in pots a couple of years ago never actually flowered, so this is overall a really lovely surprise. The walkways are getting narrower every week now. I keep removing tomato side shoots, pruning away the lower leaves and tying the plants in, but there simply isn't much empty space left. If anything, next year I'll probably want fewer tomatoes. That's one of those lessons every gardener seems to learn. Eventually, every spring, the greenhouse feels enormous, but by the end of July, it somehow becomes too small. Now still, it's so lovely to see first tomatoes beginning to colour. The chilies are coming along nicely as well, and there are a couple of sweet peppers thrown in there as well. But there are plenty of new varieties growing in here this year, so I am really looking forward to tasting them over the coming weeks. Now, because of this exceptionally long, dry, warm spell of weather we've been having, we have a hosepipe ban. So I'm actually really relieved and delighted that I've set up the IBC tank in spring and filled it up with water, which all takes a bit of time and effort because you do have to wait for the opportune moments and then the hoses and pumps and everything ready. But at least I have enough water, I'm sure, to get through the spell, because I am watering sparingly. Well, I'm being selective with the plants that are receiving the water. So likes of inside the greenhouse, I'd really only water consistently the tomato plants that are in pots, and then the cucumbers, the sweet peppers and chilies, they're getting a little bit of a break from time to time, and then the bigger planters with the tomatoes, they're also getting less frequent watering, but when I do water them, I really give them deep watering, so as much as possible. And then some of the pots outside in the garden with the flowers that I never got to plant in the rose garden, so they're the ones as well I'm trying to just keep alive while the dry weather is here with us. Outside on the field, there's another crop that needs our attention as well. Talking about crops that have reached their time, these potatoes keep getting uncovered by the soil, and at this stage I may as well dig some of them up properly before too many of them start turning green. I'll also take a few more from the far end where the blight was strongest. Even though blight attacks the foliage first, it's still better to lift the crop when it's ready rather than leaving the tubers sitting in the soil for too long. Now, at least the soil has been dry, and I'm just delighted to see how healthy they're looking underneath. Perhaps one little cutworm has had a nibble on this one. But apart from that damage, they're beautiful, clean potatoes. And it's always really satisfying to harvest potatoes, because until you start looking around under the soil, you'd really never know what's waiting underneath. sorry, there was only one. Yeah, there was only one. If I find more, I'll find you more. Now, even though this purple cauliflower has bolted, it's still so tasty. It's really sweet. The stems are still very tender and soft, and yeah, the overall taste is really mild, but it's delicious. So I've harvested all of them. Now they are going to otherwise just go over, and I can spot a cabbage as well that's ready. So I might as well get a whole dinner out of here today between the potatoes and cauliflower, and there's definitely beans as well, and then the cabbage as well. While I'm already in this area, there's another job I've been putting off for far too long. As you can clearly see, I still haven't thinned my carrots. Earlier on, after they germinated for the second time, I really didn't want to tempt fate by thinning them too early, just in case something came along and ate the seedlings again. But now they have almost gone to the opposite extreme and grown taller than is convenient to thin. So bit by bit, I'll have to work my way through them. And at this stage, they're already producing little baby carrots, so nothing ever goes to waste. But the ones I pull out today will be perfect to snack on while working in the garden or to add into a salad. And I definitely will only do a couple of rows today. I won't thin every bit of the bed. Ideally, carrots should be given enough room between each plant so the roots can swell properly underground. If they're left too crowded, they compete for light, water, nutrients, and you often end up with lots of smaller twisted roots instead of nice straight carrots. With the vegetables tidied up for now, it's time to turn my attention to one of the ornamentals. The Nepeta has definitely outgrown the space I originally gave it. Now it's narrowing the walkway, and as the flower heads are starting to go over, they're naturally drooping even further across the path, and this is actually the perfect time to give it a proper haircut. Nepeta responds incredibly well to being cut back after its first big flush of flowers, and within just a few weeks it softens up again, so it will continue producing lots of fresh growth and usually gives another lovely display that carries on right through until the first frosts. And the bees are still absolutely loving those, so I'll leave these cut stems lying here for a little while before clearing them away, just in case there are still insects making use of the flowers. And it's one of those small compromises that doesn't take much effort, but still gives them a chance to finish what they're doing. Not every part of the garden is asking for quite as much attention. We've also cut back the wilder meadow areas now. The colour contrast is quite striking afterwards, but it does allow all the fresh regrowth to come through again. Where the grass was, it's so brown, and then obviously you can see the walkways bright green still. Unfortunately, our biomass willow has definitely suffered during this longer heat spell. Quite a few plants are already showing signs of dieback, while only a handful are still actively growing. So I'd say only time will really tell which ones will recover and which ones don't. And that is just gardening. Every season always shows you which plants are happiest in the conditions you've been given, and some thrive and others endure and some don't make it.